You're not a complete sailor until you master these three things. Which one are you missing? In addition to sailing, I also really enjoy motorcycles, and I was recently watching a channel that I very much enjoy called Canyon Chasers, where he was talking about the three things that will hold back your progress as a motorcyclist. That until you address these three subjects, your progress will keep hitting a wall. I thought to myself, this is actually a really great breakdown and very applicable to sailing. As a sailor, until you master these three things, you will struggle to become a complete and confident sailor. 1. Technical craft. 2. Physical fitness. And 3. Mental fitness. Sailing, like motorcycling, is one of those sports that is largely dependent on a machine. It's easy to underestimate the human physical component of the sport, with so much emphasis on the machine, the boat. You'll spend days, weeks, months researching everything there is to know about different manufacturers, hull design, rig types, a Westerbeek versus a Yanmar. It's easy to lose yourself in the equation. But it's critical to remember that developing yourself is the most important factor in your success as a complete sailor. And the first aspect of this is the technical craft. Without having a solid theoretical knowledge base, it becomes very difficult to assess the areas where you need to improve and deepen your understanding, to know at least what you don't know. So, for most of us, we begin by taking training and lessons. For example, my wife and I own and operate a sailing school based in the Sea of Cortez, Learn to Sail Mexico, sailing out of San Carlos, Sonora. With sailing training schools like ours, utilizing the NauticEd program for online theoretical learning, and the assessment rubrics for qualifying your demonstrated competence on the water, there are many options and avenues for developing your technical skills, some much better than others. With a solid fundamental understanding of theory, the physics of how a sailboat works, points of sail, sail trim, collision avoidance regulations, pilot plans, tide tables, dead reckoning, plotting fixes, and all the rest of it, you will have the basic knowledge of the skills you will need to develop. Knowing what you need to know, you now have a roadmap for what skills you need to practice, and more importantly, what skills you know you are lacking in practice and confidence in. This is an oversimplified description of the learning process, but you get the picture. It's the process of developing the technical craft that is necessary on the route to mastering the broader context of what is sailing.
Bodie the Boomer says, a boat is a hole in the water you throw your money into, so you can take the most expensive way to get somewhere slowly, usually straight into the wind.
Physical fitness. This one really resonated with me. I've been preaching this to whoever will listen for years, and by no means am I making any claims to being some kind of physical specimen. But this is one of these aspects of sailing that is so often taken for granted and severely underestimated. It is the critical sport part of the act of sailing, and it's so much more than just what the machine can accomplish. You've probably heard it said before, in most instances, the boat will outlast the crew. It will survive the storm, and many times, as a matter of historical fact, get towed into port days after the crew abandoned ship, or wash up onto a beach completely intact. Which brings me to a point that I preach often, that arguably exhaustion is the number one cause for catastrophic failure and emergencies, the human error piece. When one perhaps has a solid grasp of the technical craft of sailing, it is fatigue that will result in disaster. Sailing can be an extraordinarily physically demanding activity. You have the environment working on you. The sun, salt, wind, motion, seasickness, variable temperatures, all working to pull your energy down. Not only is it exhausting just trying to stabilize when your whole world is moving around you, but it's also very difficult to sleep in these conditions, and regular sleep routines are interrupted by watch shifts. When sleep routines are interrupted, your digestion is also interrupted. Your ability to absorb nutrients, hydration, and your overall energy levels are significantly lower than what you are used to. Exposure to high winds, wet or damp conditions, and seasickness can rapidly devolve into an emergency scenario when hypothermia can set in, and dehydration and low electrolytes can cause a crashing metabolism and resulting medical emergencies. These kinds of serious medical conditions can onset very rapidly, even when coastal nearshore sailing, and the severity of such an emergency is far greater when sailing offshore and removed from timely access to medical facilities. The first mistake I see a lot of cruisers make, and particularly cruising couples and particularly retirees, and I'm not at all picking on the older crowd, we'll all get there, is that they either underestimate how physically demanding the activity is, or they overestimate their physical fitness. Now, we're not all elite athletes, and I'm certainly not either. And you may struggle with health conditions or physical disabilities, and that's fine. That's just a reality. And that shouldn't stop you from pursuing your goals in the sport. However, it is important to set realistic expectations and realize your limitations and set yourself up for success. An ocean crossing just may not be a realistic goal for many to set, no more than it would be for me to set the goal of setting off to summit Mount Everest next month. Maybe with years of planning, understanding the technical craft, training my physical fitness, I would have the mental fitness and confidence to endure such extremes. Just as there have been people who have summited Everest with physical disabilities, it can be achieved with the appropriate amount of time, preparation, training, experience, and the will, focus, and discipline to push through. So, what are some realistic sailing goals for the type of sailing you want to do? Well, this is largely a function of where you are sailing. And the following are just rough guidelines based on my personal experience sailing, cruising, and teaching sailing. For lake sailing or day sailing, for each hour you are out sailing, you can run a half kilometer and you can tread water for 5 minutes and easily swim a lap of an Olympic swimming pool. Near coastal, for each hour of sailing on shift, you can run 1 kilometer for a maximum of 5 kilometers per day, say if you're coastal passage making. You can tread water for 10 minutes and you can swim half the length of a pool underwater. Offshore, for each hour of sailing on shift, you can run 2 kilometers for a total of up to 10 kilometers per day. You can tread water for 20 minutes and you can swim the entire length of a pool underwater with relative ease. It should be mentioned, these are training goals, and there will certainly be days on passage where you'll be able to relax with minimal activity. But when the proverbial hits the fan, you will want to be able to rely on the knowledge that you are physically up to the challenge. We highly recommend you also complete a PADI open water dive course, which not only for the physical requirements, but for the foundational knowledge of scuba diving, and which is, in my opinion, required equipment aboard for passage making or long-term cruising. Did you know that you can hold your breath underwater for up to 1/3 of the time that you can do a static breath hold? As a free diver and Spiro and surfer, I have found this to be very true from personal experience. I can static breath hold for just over 3 minutes, and on a free dive comfortably hold my breath for about 1 minute. So this is something to keep in mind the next time you have to jump in to clear a fouled prop or change a zinc. Tell us in the comments below if you think these suggested guidelines are helpful, or what you suggest are appropriate levels of fitness for each type of sailing activity. If you lack physical fitness, your mental fitness is severely compromised. In a physical context, these two aspects are mutually inclusive. If you break down physically, your cognition is compromised, no doubt about it. Coming from a law enforcement and emergency training background, there is very good reason for the very stringent physical fitness testing requirements that recruits, police officers, firefighting personnel are required to perform, beyond just the exertion necessary to perform the required duties. Not only is mental fitness necessary in the discipline required to maintain high levels of physical fitness, it's critical to know what your body is capable of enduring, so you can keep your mind focused confidently on the task at hand and not be preoccupied with doubt about your physical ability to handle the situation. Be honest with yourself now. We've all had moments of conflict where we're faced with a confrontation, and I'm sure you've experienced what an adrenaline dump feels like. Your knees get weak, your breathing gets rapid, your hands are shaking, and your thoughts are rapid and disjointed. And if you haven't experienced these sensations, then you certainly have no idea how you will react under such duress, how your body will respond, and what your ability to critically analyze the situation will be. So again, it's so important to put yourself in these types of scenarios through training so you will better understand how you will respond to these types of situations and have the confidence to know that you'll be able to handle the moment. Again, to borrow from Canyon Chasers, and one of my favorite quotes from the venerable Mike Tyson, they all have a plan until they get punched in the face. Now, for many of us, the lucky ones, maybe you haven't had a lot of experience with confrontation or emergency situations, and this isn't something that is easy to come by for gaining experience. So the next best thing you can do to prepare your mind to handle the mental stress of an emergency or critical situation is to prepare your body to have the physical endurance to handle the stress. The racing heart, pain, and injury, having to make a very difficult decision. You have to keep your legs under you and maintain your focus on the situation at hand and not become distracted by your body or fitness failing you. Another big deficit that I've observed, especially when reconstructing incidents that have resulted in damaged or lost vessels, is a lack of critical thinking or situational awareness. This is a habit that is developed. What I love to say is thinking what to think about. In our modern iteration of society, people have a tendency to go on autopilot and just react to what happens to them. We're conditioned by our routines and influenced by our media feeds, and it's more and more rare for people to take the wheel and drive when it's increasingly easier and more comfortable to be a passenger in our lives. What I'm talking about is developing the skill and habit to actively, critically interface with the environment and activity. Develop the habit to continuously assess what's going on around you. Things like, can sail trim be improved? Are we on course? Should we alter course to achieve better time based on our boat pullers? Or should we alter course to achieve a more comfortable ride for crew? What's our plan B if we can't make that port during daylight? Plan C, when was the last time the rigging was checked and a walk-around was logged? Critical thinking is a mindset that can be practiced at all times and is a skill that can be continually developed and improved. So let me say that again. Critical thinking is a mindset that can be practiced at all times and is a skill that can be continually developed and improved. This is really important. You should never just be sitting there and should be thinking about what to think about. For example, is now a good time to go down below and prep a meal while it's nice and calm out? It might get a lot spicier later. Or will it? Maybe I should run weather checks again. It's constant, or at least it should be. That said, part of being present in this way is also enjoying being in the moment. It can be mentally tiring to always be on, so it's important to consciously take a mental break. It's good right now, so I'm just gonna sit for 20 or 30 minutes and chill. That's perfect. But chill is a break. It's not your steady state. Your steady state is alert, proactive. Hey, I noticed that jib sheet is hooked around the back of the dinghy tube. I better clip on and run up there and clear that fouled sheet before we have to do our next tack. When you've been alert and proactive and critically analyzing your environment and activities for the last hour, it sure makes taking a mental 15-minute timeout that much more relaxing, because you can take confidence in the knowledge that you're on top of it and everything is checked out. There's a lot more that can be said about developing good mental habits and a present state of mind. Tell us in the comments what you do to stay alert, run a tight ship, and stay those steps ahead of big problems that we all hear about. Hope you enjoyed today's video. It's a bit of a longer one, and like I said, there's so much more that can be said about these subject matter, but I found it fascinating and very relevant to the sport of sailing, and I hope it was helpful. I hope that you can take something from this and work it into your training and experience, and it makes you that little bit sharper and more confident. That's what it's all about. Us gaining the experience and the confidence to ratchet up the challenges and go out there and have success and feel good about it. So thank you for watching again. For more information about our training programs and what we're all about and what we do, visit our website, www.learntosailmexico.com. We've got many trips coming up. We're just launching our new 2025-2026 itinerary for offshore training courses, multi-day cruising courses, which are designed and developed to help prepare you for the cruising lifestyle or long-term live aboard cruising, passage making, so that you're confident in the skills that are necessary to have success in the lifestyle, and you get first-hand experience doing these things in the wild and getting these skills securely notched in the belt. So check us out. Thanks again for watching, and we look forward to getting back here a lot more often and doing this a lot more with you. Take care.